In this lesson, we're going to talk about standard form. This is the third and the last form of a linear equation. So we've talked about slope-intercept form, point-slope form, and now we're going to talk about standard form. Okay, here's our formula for standard form. AX plus BY is equal to C. And there are some stipulations on this form of a linear equation, and here are the stipulations. The coefficients and the constants A, B, and C, they must be integers. And A must be a positive number. So you can't have fractions. You always want to eliminate those fractions. All right, so I'm going to be showing you multiple ways to work with this equation in standard form. So the first thing I want to do is determine the linear equation given the slope and the y-intercept. Okay, the best way to do this is like so. I know that I can take a slope and a y-intercept and put it in the form y equals negative 3x plus 4. This is my slope-intercept form. Now that I have it in slope-intercept form, I have to transfer it into standard form. So here's how I'm going to do that. I'm going to add 3x to both sides. So I have 3x plus y is equal to 4. Now that you can see my coefficients, 3, and remember there's an invisible 1 there, and 4, they're all integers, and A, my 3, is positive. Therefore, this is my standard form of this linear equation. Now, what happens if I have two coordinate points? A couple different things you could do, but if you think about it, two coordinate points will always give you a slope. So let's go ahead in that direction. Let's go ahead and find my slope. x1, y1, x2, y2. All right. I'm given these coordinates, so let's go ahead and find my slope. I have negative 3 minus 1 and 1 minus 0. That will give me a slope of negative 4. If you remember from a couple units ago with the camel method, I can go ahead and find my y-intercept of my equation now. All I need to do is pick one of my points. I'm going to go ahead and pick this coordinate right here. I'm going to substitute them into y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to say 1 is equal to negative 4 times 0 plus b. You can see that b is going to equal 1. So now that I have a slope of negative 4 and a y-intercept of 1, now I can do what I did above. I can say y is equal to negative 4x plus 1. I have this equation in slope-intercept form. Now I need to transfer it into standard form. So I'm going to move my x to the left-hand side, just like it is in the formula. So I'm going to add 4x to both sides. So I have 4x plus y is equal to 1. You can see that my a, b, and c are all integers and my a is positive. Therefore, given 2 points, these are the points that lie on this linear equation in standard form. Okay, now let's look at graphs. What do graphs in standard forms look like? So it says determine the linear equation given the graph. All right, you're probably thinking, I know some information about this. I know that I have a slope and I have a y-intercept. Let's see what my slope is. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So my slope looks like it's going to be 1/2. My y-intercept is going to be negative 1. So then now I have my information. I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my slope-intercept formula. Y equals 1/2 x minus 1. All right, let's go ahead and manipulate it around. I'm going to go ahead and subtract negative 1/2 x from both sides of my equal sign. Negative 1/2 x plus y is equal to negative 1. Now that I'm in semi-standard form, I notice that I have not only fractions, I have a fraction as my a position, and I have a negative, so I can't have either of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply both sides by negative 2. Here's why. If I multiply the negative 1/2 by negative 2, it not only eliminates the 2, but eliminates the negative, leaving me with an x. Now, the trickiest part of this problem is whatever you multiply, if you multiply one side by a number, you have to multiply each component on each side. So you can see that negative 2 is also going to be multiplied by the y, giving me negative 2y. That's going to be equal to 2. And therefore, I have my standard form. All right, special graphs. We've talked about special graphs before. Just like always, they're always going to look like this. My vertical is going to be x equals whatever position it lies on, and my horizontal is going to be y is equal to 1, just like before. All right, let's go ahead and look at standard form, and we want to put it into slope-intercept form. And I'm also going to refresh your memories on another way we learned to do this in the last unit. So let's first go ahead and graph the linear equation. Let's do it one way first. The first way is putting it into slope-intercept form. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to transfer. I'm going to transfer 4x. I'm going to subtract m from both sides, leaving me with 3y is equal to negative 4x minus 12. You might be wondering, well, why did I put negative 4x before the negative 12? Well, I'm trying to get this into standard form, so I started rearranging my variables so it would end up like that. I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 3. Hopefully you remember this little skill here that we're going to look at from Unit 1. My y is going to equal, don't forget to do that, negative 4/3 x. And then my negative 12 divided by 3 is going to give me negative 4. So here is my slope-intercept form of my equation, given a standard form of an equation. And I can, of course, go ahead and graph that. Negative 4. My slope is negative 4 over 3, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. And I'm going to connect my dots. You may be thinking, well, this looks familiar. Didn't we do something else with this once? Yeah, that's why I wrote 2 ways to do this up top. Because didn't we talk about intercepts? We could also solve this equation using the x-intercepts and the y-intercepts. So if I solve for my x-intercept, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a 0 in for my y. That's going to give me 4x equals negative 12. Which is going to give me x is equal to negative 3, which if you look over here, it does equal negative 3. Same thing for my y end. I'm going to go ahead and put 0 in for my x. Y is going to equal negative 4, which you can see here as well. So 2 ways. This is the first way up top. And this is the second way on the bottom to put an equation in standard form and graph it. All right. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take an equation that is in point-slope form and we're going to transfer it into standard form. All right. Here's my form. You're probably thinking, well, I need to condense these, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to distribute. You're absolutely right. So I'm going to say y plus 1 is equal to 1/2 x minus 2. All right, I want to move things into standard form, so I'm going to move my x over to the left-hand side. You do want to show all of your steps. So now I have negative 1/2 x plus y plus 1 is equal to negative 2. I also want to eliminate that 1, so I'm going to move him over. So I'm going to bring him up here. I have negative 1/2 x plus y is equal to negative 3. All right. Again, I have a fraction as my a coefficient, and it's also negative, so I need to eliminate that. I'm going to eliminate it by multiplying by negative 2. Okay, that gives me x minus 2y is equal to 6. And that is my form, my linear equation in standard form. So this time I went from point-slope form to standard form. All right, what if I have an equation that is in no particular form. It's not in slope-intercept, it's not in point-slope, but it's asking me to put it in standard form. Well, treat it just as is. Let's go ahead and put this in standard form. It's kind of already in standard form except for two things. The -3 is negative, and the 1/2 is a fraction. So let's go ahead and get rid of both of them. You can do them both in 2 steps, or you can do them in 1. I'm going to go ahead and first think about it. I need to get rid of my negative, and I need to get rid of the 2 in the bottom. So I'm going to multiply the left side by -2. I'm also going to multiply the right side by -2 as well. Remember, when you're doing this, you have to multiply both pieces by that -2. So that's going to leave me with 6x minus y is equal to -8. And there you go. You went from a random form to standard form. And that is the end of our lesson on standard form.